On the map, Operation Bagration is a giant red wave rolling across Belarus. For one Soviet rifleman, it was mud, fear, and the weight of a rifle in his hands. He was one of hundreds of thousands of Red Army soldiers in the summer of 1944. He had survived retreats, counterattacks, and winters that seemed endless. Now, standing in another trench on another front, he was about to walk into the offensive that would smash Army Group Center and push the war toward Germany. He did not know that. He only knew that something huge was coming, and that not everyone around him would live to see it. When he first came to the front, the war was pure disaster. German panzers raced east, villages burned, columns of refugees crowded the roads. He saw comrades fall in 1941 and 1942. He heard later about Stalingrad and Kursk from men who had been there. The Red Army had learned the hard way, one bloody lesson at a time. By 1944, everything felt different. There were more guns, more tanks, more aircraft with red stars in the sky. He still felt fear. But mixed with it now was something heavier. The knowledge that they were no longer just surviving. They were pushing the invaders back toward their own borders. The Germans had brought the war to his country. This summer, the Rifleman would help carry it back. In June 1944, his division moved into assembly areas behind the front in Belarus. They marched at night, rested by day, and tried not to leave tracks. They were told a big offensive was coming, but in the ranks, no one knew how big, or exactly where it would break the line. Orders were simple: dig in, camouflage, wait. He cleaned his rifle until the metal shone in the dim light. He checked his ammunition pouches again and again. He shifted his weight in worn boots that had carried him through years of mud and snow. Around him, men smoked in silence, sharpened bayonets, and wrote short, uncertain letters home. Some joked that this would be the attack that finally broke the Germans. Others remembered how earlier promises had ended in blood. In the forest, the air was still, but everyone felt that stillness was about to end. Rumors filtered forward from the rear. Partisans were blowing up tracks and bridges. German trains were derailing in the night, supplies burning in the dark. For a rifleman on the line, these were just stories passed from trench to trench. But he understood the meaning. If the Germans could not move men and fuel, their front would crack faster when the hammer fell. He did not see the sabotage himself. He only saw the results later, in abandoned gun pits and scattered columns of enemy equipment by the roadside. Somewhere beyond the trees, someone else was already softening up the enemy. His job was to be ready when they finally said, "Forward." On 22 June 1944, exactly 3 years after the German invasion began, he was awake before dawn. His unit had moved closer to the front during the night. He lay in a shallow trench, damp earth cold under his hands. The air smelled of wet soil and old smoke. He could hear quiet orders, the clink of metal, and the low grumble of engines behind him. Then, somewhere down the line, a single gun fired. A heartbeat later, everything opened up. Massive artillery barrage from Soviet side, long lines of guns firing. Narrator: Soviet artillery roared to life along hundreds of kilometers of front. Guns of every caliber fired in rolling waves. The sky flickered with muzzle flashes like a distant storm that never moved away. From where he lay, the German positions were just a dark strip on the horizon. Now they disappeared in smoke, dust, and flame. The ground jumped under his elbows. Each blast thumped in his chest. Dirt sprayed his face and filled his mouth. Men shouted, prayed, or stayed very quiet. For him, this was not a grand offensive on a staff map. It was noise, shock, and the hope that somewhere out there the enemy was taking even more punishment than he was. He did not yet know that this was only the first minute of the biggest attack he would ever see. When the barrage lifted, whistles blew up and down the line. Officers and sergeants shouted over the fading thunder. It was time to move. He climbed out of the trench with the rest of his platoon. Ahead lay a landscape torn apart by shells, craters filled with muddy water, broken wire, splintered trees, and shattered bunkers. They advanced in short rushes, crouched low, using every dip and stump as cover. The air still vibrated with distant explosions. Then the first surviving German machine guns opened fire. Bullets snapped over their heads and kicked up spurts of dirt around their boots. He saw a man to his right jerk backward and fall without a sound. Another stumbled into a crater, clutching his leg and yelling for a medic. Training and instinct took over. He fired at muzzle flashes, at dark shapes in ruined trenches, at any point where resistance still flared. Behind him, more waves of infantry were already moving up. He knew that even if his platoon was wiped out, others would follow. That was how the Red Army fought now. Not with one blow, but with many, until the line finally broke. As the hours passed, something subtle changed. He realized he was hearing fewer shots from ahead. Some German trenches they reached were full of bodies. Others were simply empty. They passed smashed anti-tank guns, broken carts, and scattered equipment left behind in haste. Here and there, small groups of German soldiers stumbled out of cover with their hands raised, fear and shock written on their faces. For the Rifleman, this was the first time it truly felt like the enemy line was not just bending. It was breaking. He could not see the whole front. He did not know that far to his left and right, Soviet tank corps were already driving deep into the German rear, or that entire enemy divisions were being cut off. All he knew was simple. Each kilometer forward brought less fire coming back. Victory did not feel like the posters. It felt like sweat soaking into his uniform, muscles burning, and a rifle that grew heavier with every step. His unit was ordered to keep pushing. Do not give the enemy time to form a new line. Exploit success. Move. Sometimes they slept in captured trenches, heads resting on their packs, boots still on. Sometimes they marched all night and fought all day. Villages blurred together, some smashed to rubble, others almost untouched. In some, civilians watched silently from doorways. In others, they greeted the Red Army with cautious smiles, tears, and bread held out with shaking hands. He knew they were liberating Belarus. He also knew that every day, when names were called, more voices did not answer. Only later would he hear the numbers. Operation Bagration had destroyed 28 German divisions and shattered Army Group Center. Hundreds of thousands of German soldiers had been killed, wounded, or captured in a few weeks. Historians would call it one of Germany's greatest defeats. For him, the scale was hard to imagine. He had not seen 28 divisions die. He had seen single trenches, single roads, single villages, and the faces of the men who did not come back from them. Bagration pushed the front hundreds of kilometers west and opened the road toward Poland, the Vistula, and eventually Berlin. On the map, it looked like a clean arrow. In his memory, it was a long, hard walk through smoke, mud, and loss. To see how this offensive looked from above, the planning, the encirclements, and the destruction of Army Group Center, watch the full Operation Bagration episode in this series. If this soldier's view helped you feel Bagration differently, like the video so more people see this side of the war. And tell me in the comments whose eyes we should follow next on the Eastern Front: a Soviet tanker, an artilleryman, or a frontline medic.